I get concerned with some of the teachers at my kids' school who will say to the kids, yeah, you're not allowed to use AI for this. And I think that's absolutely the wrong idea. They should absolutely be using AI.
Presented by Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. You're listening to Lights, Camera, Learn. All right, welcome to another episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. I have with me today our guest, Ben Aston. He's the founder and CEO of Black and White Zebra. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to start off a lot of the guests that we have are folks that are in education or some elements of media. You know, when I was looking at your particular background, it's pretty varied from a media standpoint and everything else you've done. So I want to talk a little bit about, how you got to founding the digital project manager and also Black and White Zebra.
Yeah. So it all started in 2012 when I made the move from the UK to Vancouver in Canada. And I was moving in the middle of winter and I thought, it was 2012. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to make 12 websites in 2012. And one of those websites was the digital project manager. And I thought, hey, I've had a pretty tough time getting into and advancing in my career in digital project management. Why don't I write about it? Why don't I write a series of blog posts and turn that into an ebook? And maybe that keep me busy. And it kept me busy, and I kept doing it for a few years. And then in 2018, so after 6 years of doing that, it had become a thing. And I was generating more revenue from my side hustle than my day job. And by that time, I'd launched a course and we'd expanded into other roles as other than just digital project management. And that was the start of Black and White Zebra in 2018.
Okay. So what was your full-time job at the point that you were working on digital project manager?
Yeah, I think by that time, I'd moved from project management. So I'd kind of risen up the ranks of project management. I was a director of project management, and then I was director of client services, and then a VP of product. I think I was probably VP of product was my last official job I had.
Okay. And that was at different agencies? You had worked at agencies before, right?
Yeah. So my career had been in digital marketing, advertising agencies. So creating lots of platforms, so websites, and we did lots of government work as well, but also kind of campaigns, marketing, communications for brands. So it kind of digital agency background.
Got it. So is the digital project management kind of the through line for all the things that you've done up to this point?
I mean, I guess in many ways it is. I think really digital project management was just what I loved to do for fun. Even since I was a kid at high school, I was making websites, I was publishing content, and you have to be organized as you do that. And so, I planned projects. They were my own projects. I delivered them. And so, digital project management is a thread of necessity, really, I guess.
Okay. So relative to that, going back to high school, what was kind of the impetus for you to go, okay, this is kind of a cool thing to do, so now I'm going to take this on and do as much of it as I can?
So at school, I thought I wanted to do lots of different things, but one of the things I was going to do was computer science. And so I applied for computer science, got into computer science, but then I did a year in industry because I thought, well, let's just test this out and see whether I enjoy coding. And after a year of coding and building things, I realized actually I like writing and creating, communicating more than that. So that's when I made the shift of politics to international relations, kept on creating content, and fell into digital project management because I wanted to get into advertising, and I did. And then I kind of niched down into managing projects within that environment.
Yeah. So when you were studying political science and international relations, how much of what you learned and studied have you been able to apply in what you do now? if anything?
Zero?
Yep. I was an early political science major too, and I can't think of anything that applies other than I still stay interested in what's happening in politics, and that's probably the extent.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously more to university than
Sure.
learning specific skills. But yes, I think it's more the people that you surround yourself with and the environment you're in, rather than the essays that you wrote and your opinions
True.
on
That's true.
political corruption or whatever else it might be that you wrote about.
Yeah, that's true. I want to talk then about your experience working on the agency side, because I think, a lot of folks, look at something like Mad Men or other TV shows or movies and think, oh, that's what it's all about. But I worked on agencies too, so I know that's really not what it's all about. Plus the time that Mad Men was at, that doesn't really exist in the way that things run to some extent. I think the pitch process does. But you worked at some pretty significant agencies too. So I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting. So when I started my career, I started in an above the line agency. So these are the kind of bigger traditional agencies doing TV, radio, press. And that is a lot more like Mad Men.
Yeah.
It was super fun. Lots of pitching, lots of long hours. Lots of crazy creative directors, lots of egos. It was super fun. But then I niched down into digital marketing and advertising, which, this is at the early 2000s when everything was pretty new. And so the super exciting thing about it was that there was new technology emerging, evolving almost like every few months, which changed the way that we would do things. And in that time, brands just wanted to be cool. They wanted to just make something that was interactive, and ROI on the spend mattered less than making something cool and winning awards, which it was super exciting. It was a fun place to be.
Yeah.
But obviously, in the past couple of decades, as digital has matured, ROI, return on the investment, and attribution for the work you're doing matters more as brands have become more savvy, as budgets have tightened. It matters more being able to explain why you spent the money and the impact that it had. So I experienced a bit of the Mad Men thing, which is super fun, but it got a bit more serious.
Yeah. So what's a campaign that stands out for you in terms of either good or positive experience or negative?
Oh, well, I mean, one of the most fun campaigns I worked on was for Range Rover Sport, and this was a long time ago. But the really cool thing about it was that we shot the TV ad, and then we did a separate shoot for the interactive. So it was in the days of Flash. Everything was super interactive, and we made this crazy microsite that did lots of cool things. And cost an insane amount of money, and it was all lead gen for Range Rover Sport buyers, and kind of worked because Range Rover Sport, they're kind of ego kind of people, so they wanted to build something that got people excited about Range Rover Sport, and so it was a pretty open brief, and it was super fun to work on.
Oh, I bet it was. Having worked on the agency side too, the one thing I remember, because even though it's been a while, is this whole balance between what a client wants and what's actual reality of what you can deliver. How did you deal with that?
Oh, I mean, that is the eternal conundrum, matching client budgets and expectations with what they can actually afford. And with project management and digital project management, so much of that is about aligning expectations and helping people understand what is feasible and what is realistic, and what's going to deliver the result that they want with the budget that they have and the timeline that they have and the assets that they have available. So it's a lot. I mean, it's sales, it's persuasion, but it's also being really clear in your communication, making sure that you're really covering yourself, so that no one gets disappointed. Because when people get disappointed, you start having problems and clients start refusing to pay. And I mean, it happened to me many times that we'd deliver something and the client would turn around and say, that's not what you said you were going to do. And you'd have to refer back to the paperwork and the
Right.
conversations you had. But ultimately, that doesn't help if the client isn't
No.
happy and doesn't want to pay. So managing expectations throughout, super important.
Yeah. So what part does the digital project management play in kind of keeping that from happening?
Well, I mean, digital project management is all about firstly defining the project
Yeah.
upfront and making sure everyone's on the same page with the project brief. Why are we doing this project? What are we trying to deliver? Why does it matter? And then how are we gonna deliver that? And then
Yeah.
it's making a plan of, okay, so we don't have anything right now. We're at A and we want to get to B, which is not just outputs, but outcomes. So we're going to make these things and we're going to hope that as we make them and do this work, we're going to be able to deliver the outcome. And yeah, digital project management is all about documenting that process, making sure that there's alignment there, and clearly communicating what you're going to do, and then resourcing the team required to make that happen, to create those artifacts, create those outputs so that you can deliver that outcome.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. I want to put a pin in that for a minute because I want to come back to that. But I want to find out more about your Black and White Zebra company and what you're doing with that and the types of companies you're working with.
Yeah, so Black and White Zebra now is extended to 15 different roles. So we started off creating content just for digital project managers, and then we expanded. And to begin with, we expanded based on my knowledge, my subject matter expertise. So we started the product manager, the e-com manager, really with the same idea about helping people succeed and advance in their careers. But we've launched now a whole bunch of different sites, and gone for more senior roles as well, like the CMO, the CTO, the CFO.
Yeah.
So we're continuing to create content and community that helps people advance in their roles and advance in their careers with the jobs that they have to do. So we have an HR site, and we create content all around recruitment and payroll and benefits and how you manage teams and organizations, particularly with AI. And so really our kind of editorial lens now for everything that we created is, okay, the world is transforming, the way that we do work is different, or if it's not different yet, it will be different. So how do we lead and deliver in the world and the age of AI, and helping people prepare for that and manage through it, both themselves and their teams.
Yeah. So talk to me about how you're incorporating AI in these different applications.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that we've created for the digital project manager site and people managing people, which is our site all about leadership and organizations. And we've created an AI transformation explorer, really just to help people think through, okay, well, they know they need to apply AI. They've been given this mandate. We need to do some AI something. And so we've created a transformation explorer that has hundreds of different ways in which you could apply AI to your organization and in your role. And really, this is just a way to help people think through, okay, well, what are the benefits? What are the risks?
Sure.
And then build versus buy. Like, what are the options to acquire software that does this for you versus if you're going to build this yourself, how might you go about it? And so, we're really firstly just showcasing the opportunities and helping people think through what to prioritize in what order, and then helping them with that journey. So we're running cohort groups, helping people actually apply and AI in their organizations and help them with that AI transformation journey.
Yeah, that sounds interesting because we deal so much with educators and with school districts and the heads of school districts and the IT managers of school districts. They're really struggling with this because the teachers in particular feel like this might make them lose what control they feel like they still have. So what kind of advice would you give these folks?
Well, yeah, I think I mean, there's different perspectives on AI. There are
Yeah.
naysayers who say, actually, no, this isn't going to have much of a difference. And there's those who say it's going to transform everything. But I think a risky approach is to kind of bury your head in the ground
Yeah.
and hope for the best. I think it's much better to embrace it and see the opportunities and adapt. And I think it means holding your perspectives a little less tightly, being more open-minded and thinking through being the one that disrupts yourself. I think it's much better to be the disruptor than be one who is disrupted by someone else. So
Yeah.
I think I would definitely advocate for leaning into it and discovering what is popular and thinking through, particularly from an education perspective, what this means for how you teach, because information is commoditized, and even ideas are actually now not worth as much, because
Right.
with AI, it can synthesize and come up with ideas much better than you and I can do. We can inspire it, but AI is great at coming up with ideas. But what now matters more than ever is leadership and delivery. It's the actual execution of that. And so thinking through, well, what does this mean for how we are teaching the kids?
Yeah.
What does it mean how they do work, and how we encourage them and train them to be prepared for a world in which the skills that they need and the way and the mindset of how they approach work needs to be different, because the things that we used to value aren't valuable anymore.
I think that's true. I mean, this came up in a group of teachers a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about AI, and one of them said, look, if AI is making your classwork too easy, then you need to be a different teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, what's your reaction to that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think I get concerned. I get concerned with some of the teachers at my kids' school who will say to the kids, you're not allowed to use AI for this. And I think that's absolutely the wrong idea. They should absolutely be using AI, but the assignment should be completely different. Because if the assignment is just find out some information and write it down, you don't need to. That's not a skill anymore.
No.
You don't need to go to the encyclopedia and look it up when you can just chat GPT it. So then it becomes about applying the idea and thinking about, okay, well, what are the differing points of view on this, and how do I synthesize that, and how do I, and it allows us to go a level deeper. And the work is still there, but it's different work, and it allows us to lean into more depth analysis and different perspectives and different ways of presenting information and the data.
Right.
That becomes the value in the decision making and the abstraction of ideas, rather than just rote information.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I've seen some other examples that are pretty interesting that teachers are using AI for. For instance, one of our early guests, he teaches media, and what he's having his kids do is if they're out, they have to go do interviews, he has them use ChatGPT to create the questions. Yeah. So then they can jump into the assignment right away. They don't have to spend however long it would take them to come up with the questions.
Yeah, exactly. I think what we need to do as educators is, and I consider myself an educator in as much as we are helping people or educating people on how to leverage AI in their roles and in their industries. Yeah. But it's really about helping people change their mindset and how they think about the work that needs to be done. And I think that, the danger is people think there's value in, producing artifacts or, a set of interview questions where it's like, well, if you don't need to do that anymore, don't do it. It's a waste of time.
Right.
Do something more valuable. And I think, as a CEO, it's the same challenge. There's the things that we used to value aren't valuable anymore. I don't need you to create me a set of questions. I need you to make the questions more interesting, or ask them rehash them to ask them from a different perspective, or whatever it might be. Spend your time doing something that only you can do, and let AI do what AI does better.
Yeah, there was one article I read where a physics teacher was having a hard time particularly with athletes, not to be too stereotypical, but having them understand physics, right? So what she did is I don't know what AI platform she used, but she had it come up with examples of how physics connoted with sports. So it came up with examples of, okay, here's what happens when you throw a football, or here's what happens when you do baseball. And then the kids got it, because then they had a connection that was more personal to them. And she probably couldn't have come up with that on herself, or it would have taken a lot of work.
Yeah. And I think, and what's really cool now is with AI video, you can bring that example to life in your own custom video.
Yeah.
You could pick faces from the class and turn them into a video, and like there's surprise and delight moments. And we can actually make education entertaining and interesting.
Yeah.
Like the work is different, and the medium can be different as well.
So is Black and White Zebra looking at any of this from an education standpoint or platform in any way?
Well, so I mean, part of what we offer, we offer membership and training.
Okay.
Across our portfolio. Part of that training is, I mean, one of the courses, for example, we offer is like mastering digital project management with AI. Okay. And so we teach people, not just about how to manage projects, but how are you leveraging AI to do that? How are you making your job easier? How are you delivering projects faster, cheaper, better with AI than without? So that is, that's something we're definitely leaning into more and more. And it's interesting because as we're discovering it ourselves, for example, in HR, and we're figuring out, okay, how do we actually leverage HR within our own organization? We're then able to share that with the community and with the audience to help educate other people on how to do that.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. So what are some of the things that you've kind of come across, or any surprises along the way with regard to that?
I think, I think sometimes when we think of, okay, how might we apply AI to a problem, is sometimes the wrong way of looking at it, or thinking, okay, how do we make AI do this for us? I think what's much better is when we work back from the outcome that we're trying to get to and reverse engineer from the outcome. Because often just inserting AI into the process just adds another thing to do, and might actually make it's all about kind of reimagining workflows and work streams and working back from outcomes to figure out what is the best way for AI to tackle this. And so, it really requires inventiveness and creativity to think through, okay, is this process even relevant anymore? Or do we completely re-engineer it? Like, is this the right starting point? So we create a lot of content, and it's working back from, okay, why are we creating the content? What are we trying to achieve? Based on what we're trying to achieve, what does that mean for the way that we go about creating it? And and you can completely remix and change the approach to how you create content, not simply creating a brief and sending it to a copywriter and editing it, but completely reimagining, okay, well, let's start with an idea, let's start with an interview, and then think about, based on that discussion, how we leverage AI to turn that into artifacts that are maybe a video or a social post or a podcast or an article. So completely rethinking workflows and the outputs that we're generating, and back from, okay, what are the outcomes that we're trying to deliver here? We're trying to get engagement. We're trying to get conversions. What's going to do that most effectively?
Yeah, obviously from a teacher and education standpoint, it's about engagement, right? Classroom or otherwise. But, teachers are pretty busy. So how do you get them to step back away from that and go, okay, I got to rethink this? Or because the typical reaction might be, I don't have time to rethink it. I'm just going to do what I need to do that I'm used to doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and both of my parents were teachers,
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
I have sympathy for that. I know
Yeah.
that they, work long hours marking and lesson preparation, and so I think a great starting point is just to do it small and incrementally.
Yeah.
Is to pick one piece of the lesson, or maybe like one piece of the week. As
Hmm.
a teacher, maybe it's that there's an AI moment in the every morning or at the end of the day, and it's like, well, what could that be? Um, how could I incorporate AI
Yeah.
into the things that we're doing, rather
Yeah.
than trying to. I mean, the challenge right now is, I think, that the curriculum hasn't caught up with AI at all.
That's true.
The fundamental problem is that we're still teaching kids things that maybe they don't need to be taught anymore.
Yeah.
So I think just encouraging the students to approach problems differently, and think about how, because really this is all about problem solving.
Yeah.
Introducing it in small ways, and I would just say embracing AI and not trying to be too structured about it. But I think it becomes, work becomes more workshoppable. So then
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, use AI. We're trying to do this. We're going to do we can create an app that does this thing. What are you going to do? And
Yeah.
make it a discussion. How would you approach it? And I think, yeah, more than ever, just the kids are probably just as capable as the teachers,
Oh, yeah.
and the teacher
Yeah.
just becomes a facilitator and provides guidance and helps keep people on track, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that teachers are telling us, for the most part, that kids want guidance in this because they don't want to go off and just do something haphazard,
Yeah.
but because we all know that there's some danger in that too. So because they read about it, just they're not ignorant about it either. So they do want that guidance. As a parent, then Ben, how do you approach this with your kids? I mean, if you're seeing the school not doing the thing that you hope that they at least do, how do you approach that?
I mean, I try and show and tell, and
Yeah.
whenever they, I mean, the challenge is whenever they have an assignment, they're like, I can't use AI. I've been told I can't use it, and I'm like, well, sure, don't use AI, but let's just think about how we might use AI.
Yeah. There you go. How we might use it if given this situation.
Yeah, because I think it just helps reframe. It just helps reframe the work.
Yeah.
And then I think, whenever kids are given assignments, it always feels big and challenging. And getting started is one of the hardest things, right? When you're do an assignment about this topic, and you're like, well, I don't know where to start or how to structure this. It's like, okay, well, why don't we just start by asking AI, and then ask it how we might improve it, or how we might simplify it, or how we might make it more interesting.
Yeah.
So even just as a thought partner, I try and encourage right at the beginning of the process. If you're not going to use AI, fine, you can Google it. You are using AI, but sure, if you think you're not using AI, cool. And at least to provide some structure to that I think is super helpful when kids are kind of presented with a blank sheet of paper.
Well, it's kind of like too, when I mean, I'm sure you ran across this many times working at agencies where you've got a blank whiteboard and you expect people to start brainstorming and they're looking at a blank thing, go, I don't even know where to begin. Like, it's like the worst thing you could sit in front of a group of people as a blank board and tell the non-creatives especially, hey, let's see what you can kind of come up with.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. Yeah, it is challenging. So I want to go, Ben, back to, the company that you built and everything. I happened to look up and you guys have been quite successful. You've won some awards. You're like fastest growing entity in terms of size. What do you think's attributed to that?
Yeah, I think we focused on quality,
Okay.
and we focused on creating content and creating community. And I think probably to start with, because it was a side hustle, but it was the mission really was all about helping people win at work. And I
Yeah.
think because there's a genuineness in that mission, um, and we did genuinely help people
Yeah.
advance in their career and win at work. And we did it in a way that was a bit different because work is, typically intrinsically boring, but we tried to actually inject levity and fun into it,
Yeah.
which was a great differentiator. But really, I think it's about, staying true to that mission. Are we actually helping people win at work? Are we creating value in the world?
Yeah.
Or are we just taking? And so because we've been able to create content and community, and we've been able to help people advance in their career through helping them connect them, and this is how actually most of the monetization comes through connecting people with the tools and technology that they need to be successful in their roles. So
Okay.
everyone has jobs to be done. A project manager has to manage a project, and there's different types of project management software that can help them do that. And so by having a good understanding ourselves of the different tools and tech on the market and how they can be used for different things, we're helping people succeed at work. They trust us because they know we're helping them advance them in their career. And that's given us this unique ability to connect vendors with the audience that they're trying to connect with. So, but it comes from as a result of creating quality, being really focused on this mission to help people win at work.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, when you talk about technology, both AI or whatever it is, and you had mentioned this earlier, and it's no surprise, all of this is changing fast. How do you keep up with it to keep incorporating the tools that are going to help people succeed in their work?
Yeah, I mean, it is a full-time job.
I'm sure you have a couple of people looking at that as a full-time
so I mean,
job.
that is we have entire teams, and their role is, well, what's going on? What's evolving? What's changing? We talk with vendors. We hold events to showcase their latest and greatest tech. And we keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on. That's what we do, because there's tools and tech out there that are evolving very quickly to take away so much of the boring waste of time work. Right. So we want to be on the forefront of understanding what that is so that we can help communicate that to other people.
Yeah. So as you were building out your business, Ben, are there anything big surprises that hit you and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was going to happen? And then how did you overcome that?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest surprises was COVID. We, prior to COVID, we were a small team in an office, co-located. And honestly, I loved that. I loved, being able to spin around in my chair and talk to someone in marketing and someone in sales. It was super easy. And then I made the decision during COVID, well, who knows when we're going to return to the office. We can start hiring people from all over the world, which was great at the time, because it meant we had access to all kinds of talent that we didn't before. But that also made managing the business a lot more difficult as we, spread out across different time zones across the world. We like flexible working. Everyone likes flexible working, but when everyone's working flexibly all around the world, it's very hard to get stuff done. So that has been one thing that has been super challenging. And I think, at the time, no one really knew when COVID was going to end. And we've kind of like borne the legacy of that, which is keeping the team aligned and keeping the direction and the engagement of a team that's remote and asynchronous is super, super challenging.
So you still have remote folks?
We do. We do. Well, we have a headquarters, we have an office. And we actually have a lot of people here in Vancouver where I am in the office right now, but most people choose to work remotely and asynchronously, which I understand. But then the flip side of that is, then they'll also say, "Oh man, I feel burnt out. I'm disengaged. I don't know what's going on." And I say, "Well, come to the office then." But they don't want to because they don't want to get out of their pajamas. So it's a challenging time And I think it's an interesting time because, on the one hand, it's interesting to me when I read, the studies of, whatever study shows that, people are way more productive when they're working from home. And I think, on the other hand, you see all of these CEOs insisting that their teams come back to the office, and you have to ask why. And it's like, my quick take on it is, it's not that, yes, people might be more productive at home in some sense, in that they might be spending more time in front of their computer, or they might be producing more things, but they're probably producing the wrong things because they're not aligned in terms of what they're actually supposed to be doing, and they're disconnected with how that output connects with value for the business. So people are making lots of widgets, but they're the wrong widgets. And that's no good to anyone.
That's a really good point, because before I was here, I was the head of marketing at the ABC affiliate here in Sacramento. And I remember I'll never forget, the day was March 13th. It was a Friday. They told us all to go home, and we weren't sure when we were coming back. And so I had 12 people to manage from their home, and that went a year and a half. They brought some people back, but not my team. And it took a lot of work to keep us all aligned. I mean, it took a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, a lot of work. Yeah. And it wasn't that I didn't trust anybody, but to your point, making sure they did the right work, not just work.
Yeah. I mean, it's two things. Yeah, it's making sure the right work is being done, and then that the work is being done right. So then there's that check and balance that you need. That's even harder because it feels like micromanagement, but it's like, well, I don't actually know what you're doing because I can't see, because I'm not walking past you. So it's different.
Yeah, it is. So, you had mentioned something before about kind of the fun and the kind of the authenticity that you've kind of approached with your work, but that obviously is something that you've inculcated it in your business. So how does that manifest itself on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, like I said before, it's about thinking through, like, how can we make serious stuff fun? Like, serious and fun, they seem like opposite things.
Right.
So it's a mindset really about, okay, well, this is educational. We're trying to teach people how to do stuff, but how can we do it in a way that is fun? So how can we create examples that are interesting? Like the example you gave with the physics teacher. Like, what's an interesting analogy, or what's a way to bring this to life that actually makes this easier to understand and makes it more interesting? And that requires creativity and thought and effort, because it's fairly straightforward and easy just to create content like everyone else does. But how do we bring this to life in a way that might be engaging? That's where that takes cycles of creativity and brainstorming and figuring out, how do we make this unique, different? How can we explain what scope creep is in a way that's interesting? You can check out on our YouTube channel, The Digital Project Manager. Like, we created a video all about the scope creep and imagined it was a creepy man who tried adding everything to, just kept on adding things to projects. So I think it's just thinking, taking a boring, dry concept, like not an interesting thing, but rethinking how might we make this compelling and interesting and memorable.
I think that's a really good point, because there can be boring subjects that come to life in a creative way. Do you remember, I think it was the GE commercial where I was talking about ideas, and it had this like creepy looking furry monster kind of thing, and people they want to ignore them because they don't know what they really are, especially new ones. And then at the end, it showed it like all bloomed out and everything, because it was, the whole idea was, if you encourage ideas, then this is what could happen. I thought that was an interesting approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how do you make this happen though on a regular basis in your company? Like with the folks, how do you encourage them and build this kind of atmosphere? Because that starts at the person who's at the top.
Yeah. And I think I try not to take myself too seriously. And I think it's embedding kind of a culture of fun into the organization. And I think that means, to some extent, I have to overstep and overplay it, so
Yeah.
people understand, hey, there is permission here to do things differently to perhaps I'm used to. And I mean, one of the things we do is we have an annual summit in which that really is a culture building moment for the team, where they
Yeah.
begin to understand more and more, oh, actually, like, we're serious about injecting fun into things. Like, we want this whole thing to be fun. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm spending my whole day at work. I want,
Yeah.
work to be something that I enjoy, and, work and life should not be, in my mind, like two ends of the spectrum, two extremes that we're, constantly trying to escape from work and into life.
Right.
Like, they are part and parcel of the same thing. So thinking, okay, well, how can we make this fun? And it's rethinking work, and not so much a balance of trying to get balance work against life, but thinking, okay, well, how do we make work life giving? And I
Yeah.
think
There you go.
it's the mindset and it's the attitude that we approach it with.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're spending 8, 9, 10 or more hours a day, 5 or more days a week, it should be something you look forward to being at, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get this over with.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's 3 things that came up at something that I looked up, Ben, in terms of communication, empathy, and adaptability are all soft skills, right? So which do you think are underrated, and which do you think of those are overrated? Again, it's communication, empathy, and adaptability.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, right now I struggle with, like, most important is a toss up between communication and adaptability, because
Yeah.
when we're remote and asynchronous, the communication piece is just so important, and people misunderstanding and long email threads or Slack threads about a topic where it's like, guys, if you just had picked up the phone and chatted to each other for 2 minutes, you could have resolved this within minutes rather than days, as this, observe this thread. So, like, clarity of communication is so important. But on a kind of more meta level, the adaptability thing, like, adaptability is one of our core values, and it is because with the world changing so fast, we can't hold so tightly onto the roles and the work and the things that we've always done. We have to be adaptable. So, like, above all else, like, having, and it's about parking your ego. It's about parking, like, when a better idea comes along or something that makes more sense, it's having that willingness to let it go and go with what makes more sense. And I think that as a value, I mean, the adaptability, I think, is more of a mindset. It's like, can I let this go and let my ego go? Whereas communication, I think it was more like it's a more tactical skill, like soft skill, like that's important. And empathy is one of those ones where it's it's important, but like, particularly with communication, to be thinking, okay, what is this other person thinking, feeling right now, and so how can I communicate in a way that is going to be effective for that? But that would be number 3 in my list.
I think that makes sense. I mean, on the adaptability side, I've always thought that tension exists between the folks that will embrace change and the ones who don't.
Yes.
And I think the world we're in now is a perfect example of that. It's the people who are willing to go, okay, that's not the same as it was before, versus the ones, no, I want to hold on. And in fact, I want to bring back the way that it used to be.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there, so I want to, last question here. I just want to ask you, Ben, are there any actionable takeaways our listeners can start incorporating in what they do from what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we've covered a lot here, but I think from thinking about delivery and projects, I think particularly with AI, working back from the outcomes, and like, what is the result that we're trying to get to, and thinking how then might we rethink the way that we do this, re-engineer the workflow to work back from that outcome, rather than being precious about the particular outputs. So it's, no longer so important that you produce a certain artifact or thing. What's important is that you get to the end and it does what we want it to do. And so having this more kind of ROI focused value delivery mindset, particularly with AI, I think is a really important shift that we all need to make. And it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Throwing away the way that we used to do things, but thinking through, okay, what's the value I'm trying to create? Let's work back from that value, work back from the outcome that we're trying to get to, and rethink what the outputs might be that are going to generate that value, and then the process that we need to create to take those outputs, rather than, okay, well, we always do it this way, so let's do our thing.
Right.
I think that's important.
I think you're right. I think, for any teachers, educators, students, or whoever might be listening or watching this, that's a really important thing, because you can go into a classroom and say, this is how I've always done it. But if the outcome isn't what you need it to do, or if the students are over here and you're over here and you both need to be here, then the outcome isn't going to be what you need it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else that we didn't cover, Ben, you want to mention?
No, if anyone's interested in what we're doing, head to bwz.com, and there you'll find all of our different publications in our portfolio that include the Digital Project Manager, which is all focused on delivering with AI, and People Managing People, which is all about leading organizations with AI. So check it out.
Okay, this is great. Well, thank you, Ben. I appreciate your time. Great conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, listen, that's it for this episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. You can catch us on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, or support us on Patreon by clicking on Lights, Camera, Learn. Till the next episode, make it a great day. Thank you.